After 9 o'clock, I'm excited. I got the Galveston Daily News here in studio. We're going to be learning about a lot of cool things going on in the community, some news, some history is happening right now. I'm going to kick this on the FM. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Share this out. Let me know what you got going on today. Here we go. Good morning. This is KHEA Radio. This is Kickstart. My name is Gardy. It's 9:05 on a beautiful day, and I have some friends, some guests in studio. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we're going to talk about some history taking place. It's a historic day, weekend, and I'm excited. We got some guests in studio. Introduce yourself and let us know what you got.
Good morning, everyone. This is Leonard Woolsey, publisher of the Daily News and Coast Monthly.
Hi, good morning. Michael Smith. I'm editor of the Galveston County Daily News.
Good morning. Laura Elder, managing editor of the Galveston County Daily News and editor of Coast Monthly magazine.
All right, so I'm excited y'all are here. There's some really cool things taking place right now in the history of our country. And if you look at the front page of the Daily News, Leonard, can you let me know what's going on?
Well, this is really a remarkable day in the history of Galveston County, and even the nation, because yesterday, Juneteenth, which is really symbolic of the freedom of the final slaves here on Galveston Island, 2 years after emancipation was declared, was officially signed as a federal holiday by the president yesterday, and that was following Congress coming together and agreeing that this should be brought forward as a potential federal holiday. And so, you know, Michael here can explain a little bit more of the history of how this came to be, but in relative terms, this thing happened quickly. And if you consider the time frame we are in as a nation right now, this could be a very healing and moment that could bring us together. Michael, you want to expand on that?
Well, we were just talking a little bit earlier before we went on air about how long people had been lobbying and working and educating and raising awareness to try to get some kind of recognition for Juneteenth. And it's been, I don't know, 20-something years, I think, since the effort started in an organized way. But then when it happened like immediately, over the course of a few days. And I think it's kind of stunned and amazed even the people who had been working on it. It caught me by surprise, and I've been following this issue I've been in with the Daily News for 24 years and been following Juneteenth and the efforts to get it recognized, and it kind of caught me by surprise. It happened so quickly. And also what happened yesterday was more than people had been asking for in the past. Most of the expectation and kind of the hope and dream had been to have Juneteenth named a national day of recognition, like Flag Day or something like that. And then suddenly this bill that Senator Cornyn and Representative Sheila Jackson Lee from Houston introduced, respectively, in the House and Senate was a much bigger, much more ambitious bill to have it named as a national holiday. So that was remarkable. And then just how quickly it happened when it all happened. I mean, we were talking, I guess, Wednesday about when the president might get around to signing it, and then the next thing we know, they're announcing that he's going to sign it on Thursday. And so it was all this work and a lot of defeats along the way. I mean, even the bills and efforts to get it named a National Day of Recognition all failed. And then the big ask happened, and it just happened like that. It was really amazing.
What do you think this means for Galveston, or for the people that worked on it, or for businesses going forward in the area? What do you think what's the impact?
Well, I think there's different ways to look at it. I mean, Laura was just talking about, you know, just from a kind of a really practical community development sense, it makes Galveston ground zero for the birth of one of a dozen national holidays. It's like having some artifact of the revolution, you know, like somebody back east would have at Concord or Lexington, or, you know, have a historic battlefield or something. You've got the actual physical place where this major historic event happened. And maybe Laura can speak a little more about that. She covers business a lot. But I know that the tourism managers in Galveston are very excited about this. because it puts a tangible hook on selling Galveston history. That's one among many good things about it.
I think it's, first of all, everyone's so proud, and I've talked to business owners who are really proud that this happened in Galveston, really proud of the people that made it happen. But I started getting texts yesterday, I think we talked about that a little earlier, at businesses wanting to know how to appropriately celebrate this. And then we were talking about how do you not make it a Cinco de Mayo. There's a lot to think about. How do you celebrate it and do it properly? And but I think it is going to be a big tourism draw. I think already the Absolute Equality mural is something that I know people from all over are coming to see, and I think that this brings more importance to that mural. So I think we're going to see, I think it's a big deal for Galveston.
Gardy, I remember a year ago on the 19th, I was in downtown Galveston shooting a quick video editorial in front of the Juneteenth sign there on the Strand. And I'm having to work my way in to get a few moments to shoot this video because people are coming in. And I was asking them where they were from. Some were from Oklahoma, some were in Houston. They all wanted to come down and see the sign or touch the sign that day. So it already had this magnetism of drawing people into Galveston. And now that we've got this mural, now that we've got this holiday and this endorsement of, you know what, this is a big deal. I think this is only good for Galveston.
Yes, and there's a lot of people that still are not familiar with Juneteenth. Some are, and this is going to be a lot of putting a lot of eyes on it and just realizing it's and Michael, you were mentioning this before we went on air, it's for all people. Right. This is a holiday for everybody.
Yeah, I think to me this is one of the objections to the national holiday that we're still hearing this morning from some people is that trying to cast it as kind of an ethnic holiday. This is a holiday for black people to celebrate. And true, that's the roots of it for sure. But to me, the national holiday is kind of an invitation for the whole nation to celebrate this point in history when, and you can quibble about whether it was the actual end of slavery or just symbolic or whatever. None of that really matters. I mean, it kind of evolved into being the symbolic day when human bondage ended in the United States of America. And that is something that everybody who believes in the founding principles of this country ought to be able to celebrate.
Absolutely.
And so naming it a national holiday is sort of a formal invitation to say, let's stop for a minute on this day every year and recognize where we came from, what we did wrong, and where we might go and how we can do better. And that's just a really, really good thing, I believe.
So Galveston is the beginning. It's like you had mentioned, it's ground zero of everything of this starting. So the Daily News, what do you see y'all's job to do? Like just to document all this stuff, keep that?
Well, absolutely, Guardian. And that's what we've been doing, come this April for 180 years in this community, which, we're the oldest newspaper in Texas, and we're really proud of that. But, people sometimes kind of lose, there's so many choices for content out there in the world. There just are today, more than ever. But the truth is, our job is to go out and chronicle everything that's occurring in the community with almost a step-back view of here's the information, here's what happened, and it goes on the record. And we don't go back and change history. We go back and change stories that run. Now, if we find we've made a correction or a clarification, we'll go on public and do that. But it's important for that paper to be a literal spot in time that you can go back and look at. And you can do that through the history of the Daily News. Now, our job for the last 180 years is the same job we're going to have going forward with this Juneteenth. Michael and I have been talking, there's no place else on planet Earth that has been chronicling the start of the movement to make Juneteenth, first of all, elevate its recognition and then bring it to a national prominence than the Daily News. We have all these stories. We have all these people. We know all these people. In some small way, we may have played a part in helping get the word out to a couple of people or add some legitimacy to this whole thing. And that's what we do. And going forward, what I'm hoping is that the establishment of Juneteenth as a federal holiday doesn't become a period, a punctuation point at the end of the story, but more of a comma, where as a nation we can move forward and we can learn from this, which is the whole point of pain, is to learn from pain. And, our nation has been through this, and, we need to learn to admit when we've made mistakes, when we've made wrongs, and go forward. And our job now is going to be able to continue to capture that story and create a place where anyone in the world wants to learn about Juneteenth and learn about the history and how it tracked to where it is today. They can use the pages of the Daily News.
You were mentioning y'all's job is not to go and to change the stories in the past, but try and document it. I guess right if there's some corrections stuff needs to be addressed or whatever. But y'all been doing it for 180 years, which is the oldest newspaper in Texas. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there's been a lot of stories even since you've been on. And when did you come on with the Daily News?
About 7 years ago. And this is the most wonderful community and the most wonderful group of people. I've gotten to work with Michael and Laura since then, and the team there at the Daily News. They're just good people. And I'm going to use a slightly curse word here on the radio. I don't think I get thrown off, but there's such a give a damn gene with these people. The people that we have there, I believe, are truly committed with a passion to what they do. Mm-hmm. And that makes my job easier, which is to just kind of help support the environment for people to do the very best they can, which is why you see Michael and Laura and all the others do tremendous work. And then you see earlier this week when we received both state recognition for the work we do as well as the Associated Press recognition. So, there's a very talented team of people there that believe in this community. They believe in what they do as a vocation. And I believe Galveston is a very fortunate place to have a local, strong, healthy newspaper.
How many awards did y'all receive? I saw a lot. There was a lot of awards that y'all received and recognitions.
I'm not sure what the total number was. It's 20 something if you count them all. We're a little bit biased in the newsroom. We really only count the first places. But we had a good year this year, and it was very nice to be recognized by the Texas Press Association and also the Texas Associated Press managing editors. You have good years and you have bad years, in competitions, and there's always some subjectiveness in there, but it's way better to win than not. So we're happy about it.
Yeah, what do you think made it such a good year? This year for y'all.
Well, there was a lot going on, and I think the Daily News kind of has Leonard always says things are in our DNA, and I think the Daily News functions better in catastrophe than any other time. We've been covering hurricanes for 180 years. You were mentioning what do you do going forward with Juneteenth, and we were just talking about, our newspaper, our website, galvnews.com needs to be like where people go to get educated about Juneteenth, and we kind of wound up being dragged along by history. We've been sort of on the front of this thing right up until the end, and then all of a sudden the whole thing just accelerated like at warp speed, and so now we've got some catching up to do. We need to build a website that is, the repository of all the reporting that we've done and the photos that we've taken over the 180 years or the 150 years that we've been covering Juneteenth. We've got a real good website for the 1900 storm. But anyway, what got me off on that riff was that, we've been covering disasters for a long time. The 1900 storm, biggest, most deadly natural disaster in history, was in Galveston. The Texas City explosion, which is still today the biggest industrial accident in history. So we've got a lot of experience covering catastrophe. And I think the whole COVID-19 thing just sort of focused our attention and said, this is the story. And when you have events sort of intervene and focus your mind for you, sometimes you can do your best work under those circumstances.
I also want to point out just, it does come down to hard work. We've got a really hardworking team, and I don't think people realize how talented some of our photographers and reporters are. But while these disasters are going on, people forget we're living it too. We're living it in the community. We live in the community. So we're there on the ground when it's happening. We're not reporting from outside, so you see other media come in, but we're living here. So I think that's reflected, and I think the judges see that. We are able to bring a lot more to our reporting because of that.
Gardy, let me ask this. Michael and Laura being somewhat modest, but I've been here during times of catastrophes. And the one thing that I can see as an outsider, meaning I haven't been here for 24 years, is when it hits the fan in the newspaper and Michael and Laura lead this, it's almost like you take a car from fourth gear to fifth gear. The tone just slows down a little bit, and the focus becomes intense, and suddenly time slows down, and even though things are going crazy, there's like a calm as they go into the storm. And no matter what is going on, I mean, we're, even in Hurricane Harvey, for example, we're driving around picking up employees in our trucks, and, I've got an old SUV, and I'm picking up John Wayne Ferguson, and he's carrying his dog with him because his place is flooded, and, we're bringing people's pets into the office, and some of us are living there 24/7. Michael's got a Bunsen burner making coffee when we've got no electricity. I mean, this is not mail it in or phone it in reporting. This is really down on the ground reporting, and you can't. This isn't being created today in the world. This news model isn't a startup type news model. It's based on having lots of feet and lots of talented people out on the street in the community and experiencing just what these people are and trying to offer some sort of contextualization to it. And we all look for validation in life, and what we do rather than top shelf hyperbole is to validate what we're all going through together for the record. And tomorrow, this edition of which has jubilation on the front page about Juneteenth will be a postcard in time that validates what we were all feeling on that day. And a week from now, there could be something else. It could be a tropical storm showing up. But you can always go back and you can always count on that paper will be a 100% reflection of what everyone was feeling in that community or what people could most feel at that time. So Michael and Laura, the awards that they won are, they're, like Michael said, they only count first. Well, let's talk about the first. TPA awarded the newspaper, the Galveston County Daily News, as best newspaper in the state, general excellence, best paper in our entire category of newspapers. And this was the largest category that competes by the Texas Press Association, which is a membership of for the most part, most of the newspapers inside Texas. And then Coast Monthly won best magazine in the year by the Texas Press Association. It's won that almost every year since Laura rebirthed the magazine. And then the Associated Press this week gave them best news team. Is that what it is? Newsroom.
Newsroom of the year.
Newsroom of the year. And we were the smallest newspaper in that group, competing against newspapers 3 and 4 times our size. And so Michael's being modest here. The judges looked at the body of work that they did last year during COVID and said, wow, you guys are exceptional.
I was going to ask, is there an award that y'all didn't get? There's we'd get that, but if you get the best newspaper in Texas, is there another award that y'all are looking for?
We're looking for the Pulitzer, that. And we're not kidding about that. I think that, the state's oldest newspaper should have a Pulitzer and probably at times has earned one. We just, but we've got the eye on the prize. And I believe that under this team, under Leonard and Michael, we're going to get there. I think we all believe that.
Yeah.
So
I think we can do it.
So yes, there is one out there, and we want that Pulitzer.
And Gardy, one last thing. I mean, we look at the newspaper. It's not Michael's newspaper, Laura's paper. You'll find no one like Laura and Michael that take more pride in their roles at a newspaper that I have ever seen, and I'm very proud of them.
Wow. So the next 180 years. So y'all are pretty much, when you say it that way, it's like, hey, we're taking care of this now, and then to hand it off, in the future, whenever that is, another 100 years, y'all run the paper, someone else can run another 180 years.
That's right.
Whenever y'all put an edition out, like this one, does it have, is there such thing as a perfect paper? Does it have to be ideal? This is okay, it's sealed, it's done, it's perfect, we can release it.
I don't believe there's a perfect paper. There's actually an old joke in journalism. Up at the top of each page, you have the folios up there, and that's where you have the day and the date and the volume number, and it's just furniture, and it's there every day. And the old joke is that on the day that you get everything else right, every comma, every period, no dropped words. Everything is perfect. Is the day that you'll leave the folios off the newspaper. So, newspapers are a product of immediacy, right? I mean, they're not put together in reflection, and we a lot of eyes go on the copy, and we have layers of editing and we have proofreading, but more often than not, what you see in the printed newspaper began life that morning, and so that's a pretty short period of time to get it right, and there's kind of a hierarchy of things that you have to worry about. You have to worry about primarily getting the facts right. That's what you don't want to get wrong. And then it goes all the way down into the fine details of the grammar, punctuation, and spelling. So, we never achieve the ideal. We strive for it every day, but every edition that goes out could have been better in some way. Mm-hmm. And some are better than others.
Gardy, I know you're a fan of tacos.
Oh, yes.
So let me make this analogy. Imagine you ran a taco restaurant, okay? And every day you walked in, that building was empty. There was nothing in there. There was no furniture. There was no menu. There were no food supplies. There was no stove, no nothing. And every day we walk into a blank piece of paper and have to reset that store every single day. And by what's coming in the door depends where that furniture is going to go. What's available on the market depends what's going to be on that menu that day. We figure out. I mean, it's just every single day it is a brand new product. And it may look like there's some form and function to this whole thing. Well, we kind of hold on to that and just hope you feel that way, because some days as life evolves, like I'll tell you, the day before, on Wednesday, Michael had no expectations Friday's paper was going to be all about Juneteenth. Anything he had planned for that day went to the side. So we have to completely remake everything we do, and like Michael said, have it all right, ready to go at a defined deadline. No wiggle room.
Yeah. I can tell you, too, Galveston County never disappoints when it comes to news. And I've worked in other markets briefly. I always come back to the Daily News because it has readers like no other publication, but it's just a newsy county. I don't know if it's just interesting people live here, but there's never a dull moment. So we're never really sitting around going, what are we going to put in the paper? It's what are we going to keep out of the paper?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point.
Yeah. How are we going to get all this stuff in here? I wanted to say something, because you had asked before about, why do you think we won? And it was interesting to me, the judges, sometimes on these contests, they'll give you a little blurb about what the judge said about your entry, and I think it was on the Texas Press Association General Excellence. The judge said the Daily News has a very clear sense of place, that when you read the Daily News, you get an idea of the place that the newspaper is covering, and that's not by accident. That is something that's like the prime directive. When people pick up the Daily News and read it, whether they're here or there or wherever they are, we want them to come away with a sense of the place, the people who live there, and that's something that we try to hammer into our reporters and our photographers. That's Coast Monthly is kind of a phenomenon. It's a glossy magazine published by a relatively small newspaper, but you can put it up against any magazine in this country. I mean, I don't know of another magazine in Texas that is slicker, better produced. But the thing that really and people love Coast Monthly, and I don't even know whether they know why they love it or not. But one of the reasons is because it captures a sense of place, and that's not by accident. That's the prime directive, and Laura makes sure that the people that are talking in the magazine, the people that are photographed in the magazine, the people that make the magazine are people who live here. They're authentic. It's not kind of a knockoff of a Manhattan magazine that we're trying to do here. This is, in both the publications, the we do a lot of things, but one of the main things that we're trying to do is to provide a kind of a print version of the community. Talk to the people who live here, get their voices in the paper, and I think that resonates with people when they read it.
Mm-hmm. So the other day I was in Texas Pit Stop Barbecue, ran into Sam Collins, scheduled him to come in. This was he came in last week talking about Juneteenth and some other things, and then I see Arnold Garza has this framed Coast, cover right there, and it's just cool. It's just it's a community magazine featuring the community for the community, and it's a great quality product.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We enjoy putting it out.
Yeah, and like whenever you go and look for those stories, what kind of things are you looking for to put in there?
Just interesting people. We don't run out of them. Our writers, we have them positioned all over the county, and we have ideas of what we always want to, we want to feature a beautiful home or a beautiful backyard or a beautiful kitchen, and we just don't run out of them. We talk to people. I get ideas just walking into the store or visiting someone. I'm like, you know what, we really want to feature you. The ideas just come through the writers and just the people we meet.
Mm-hmm. So one thing I love about that, this is, when you were like mentioning the things, it's all like positive, like happy things, and there's so much negativity in the world, especially on social media, like just looking at other stuff. And so when I see like that jubilation cover of the Daily News, it's like, yes, it's amazing news that's featuring local people, that help make it happen, and y'all are spreading it. And so that's what I love, just like those positive stories. And there's a lot of different places you can go and see some different things, but whenever there's amazing news on the front cover, I love it.
Wow, thank you. Appreciate that. And Michael will say, that's a reflection of our community. That's how we feel today. We may not feel that way in 3 days from now, but today, that's how we feel. And that's the magic of being able to produce this newspaper for people. There will be people coming in our office today. You're going to hear people say, oh, print's dead, print dead. But we're going to have people coming in our office for a week buying back copies of this because they want to be able to hold it. It's not like they're going to take a screenshot of something and then frame it and put it on their refrigerator. There's something tangible, tactile about physically touching something and knowing that is a moment of time. You will not go back and change it, and it'll bring back that memory. And so, I know that, like you said, there's a lot of social media out there, and there's a whole lot of media today, but we really believe in our formula, which is to accurately reflect what our community feels on that day or at that time. And many times you're going to see the opinions in our paper are 180 degrees from each other. But you know what? That's just because we're a community and we're people and we're human, and we're really proud of that model, and we're proud of our fellow newspapers across the nation.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what I was thinking. I wanted to say though, the whole Juneteenth thing. One of our copy editors pointed out last night that the President of the United States said Galveston, Texas, like 4 times on national TV. And it was really nice because they weren't talking about us about to be obliterated by anything this time. It was good news. And so today we've got good news. Tomorrow maybe not, but that's the way the news breaks.
Well, President Biden, maybe he should come down here and visit.
I think so.
That'd be a good idea.
We'd host him.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were kind of hoping that he would. I think he was flying in from Europe when the Congress finally finished voting, and we were kind of hoping maybe he would divert to come and sign it in Galveston, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, if he chose to arrive, that would be a totally apolitical kind of moment for this community, and very symbolic. And President Biden, if you happen to be listening this morning, please come on down and see us. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, open invitation anytime. Hey, I see here's a comment from Joanna Alvarado with Coastal Community, and she was recently featured as one of the 40 under 40. And so there's a lot of things that y'all do every year. So that's the 40 under 40 Citizen of the Year. And I guess that those lists just got released. I see some friends that I know, like my buddy Justin West and Kathy Wotania with ACU. And that's always a fun thing, just to see the people in the community that are doing really cool things. That's another positive thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that's exciting.
Yeah, and it's part of our job to also look for the opportunities to celebrate our community, make our community, take pause, and like you're talking about, that list is in the paper today. And so if people go out and pick up a copy of the Daily News, buy it, they'll be able to look through that list and see the names of people they'll recognize. I was scanning it this morning also, and it's really cool for us to be able to be a part of sharing something positive in someone's life, because they will forever be able to carry the credit that I was selected 40 under 40 by the Galveston County Daily News in 2021. And it's something that, as an entity, we're gifting out to the community. And we want these people. These are people that were nominated because they're making a difference in their business. Their business feels like, they want to invest in them, and they want to invest in our community. We want them to stay here and take Galveston. You're talking about that next 180 years. Somebody's going to have to take that baton, because, my hair went from, salt and pepper last year to pure white. Okay?
Yeah,
it was that kind of year. So, but we want to do those things. That's important. It's part of our role, not just tell the poor stories.
Mm-hmm. What are some things y'all are seeing and hearing from Galveston businesses, like tourism? I mean, has it been more people open to going back out to places? And
it's phenomenal. And interestingly, though, Galveston, even during COVID, never seemed to slow down, or we weren't hit as hard as restaurants were hit hard, and bars, but last year we got more tourists than we thought we were. This time it's almost double. We're hearing from the Beach Patrol. it is phenomenal. If you go out in the streets, I was downtown. Even early in the day, it doesn't matter what time, downtown is packed. People are coming down to Galveston. We're also hearing that there are still people not ready to take those big trips, so people are touring more locally or in Texas. I think that's going to benefit the whole county. So we're expecting a blockbuster year in Galveston, and I think the one problem they're having is, hiring enough people to take on this what we expect to be a huge wave all summer long.
wow.
Gardy, sometimes in history there are moments that a community or people shift, and I really think Galveston shifted during COVID. I think a whole group of people rediscovered or discovered Galveston, and we're going to go from more of this kind of island community outside of Houston, go down there on the weekend and blah, to almost a 12-month full. The shoulders are not going to be what they used to be. Even Laura was talking about, Peter Davis was talking about, we may need year-round lifeguards because of the volume of people that are coming here. And I think Galveston County and Galveston itself now is a different destination than it was before COVID. And good, bad, whatever you think of it, it's going to be everyone's responsibility to adjust to that in order to make sure our community thrives and moves forward.
And more telling is our real estate market, where it's always hot until it's not. But what's interesting is we're working on a story now as you see all the infill. West End used to be the new home development. People are buying up homes, and a lot of them because they don't have to work anymore where the physical building of their offices are. And so we've seen just a kind of not just tourism but permanent residents moving down here, or people who had a second home but now they realize, well, I can work from here full time. So it's really, I think it's COVID has reshaped the community, and so we're going to see a lot more, not just tourists but permanent residents.
Yeah, the real estate market's doing some crazy stuff. You see, I look at the prices of homes in Galveston and just real estate, and everything is it's just across the board, but especially in Galveston.
Yeah.
It's big.
And I think the tourism phenomenon is something that applies kind of the whole county. People talk about corridors, a technology corridor, a medical corridor, or centers, but it seems to me that there's kind of a tourism corridor developing along Interstate 45 more or less in Galveston County. You've got KHEA up in the north, and you got Galveston down in the south, and you've got all the bays and everything that are big draws for anglers and other kind of sportsmen. And then you were talking about the Lago Mar Lagoon before we went on air. That's going to be a huge tourist draw, and it's kind of. And Laura, what's the name of that amusement park that the doctor's trying to build over here in Texas City?
Oh, Adventure Point.
Yeah.
We hope that gets
Yeah, I drive by and it looks like I'll see something new, and I don't know if I just missed it or is somebody working at night and they're just like dropping off a little piece of equipment at a time.
One of these days.
Yeah, well, I think I read it in y'all's paper. This was, it had to have been a year and a half or maybe something ago. There was some issues or something. I don't know, but they had to put a pause on some things. But I hope that goes through too. That'd be awesome.
We're all rooting for him.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a labor of love, and so it might take a little bit. But my point was, I think that there's kind of this tourism and entertainment corridor sort of developing from the north to the south of Galveston County, and that's kind of exciting. I mean, Texas City's got the dike, and it's also got, I think, some ambitions to be more of a tourist town. So it's all very exciting.
It really has. Things have shifted, and Michael's right. I mean, tourism is not just limited to Galveston. It's up and down 45 and throughout these communities, and so the build-out's going to be exciting. It's going to transform Galveston County from League City down to the island, Santa Fe, Texas City. It's going to the whole gamut. So this is, it's one of those things where it's kind of like surfing. You wait for the wave, and then you get in front of the wave so you can take advantage of it, or you get pushed under. So we're all going to have to figure out, even the Daily News is going to have to figure out what is the best model to get paddling and get in front of that wave so, we can be successful.
Yeah. Is there anything else that y'all wanted to talk about? I know I definitely wanted to bring up, the 40 under 40 and the Citizen of the Year, which was, I was looking at the people that were nominated, and y'all had that at Watergrove event venue in Dickinson.
Well, Michael, talk about Citizen of the Year. Let's talk about that. And Dr. Kaiser, talk a little bit about what the importance was with Dr. Kaiser.
Well, a couple of years ago, I guess it was year before last or last year, we've been doing Citizen of the Year for 20-something years. And it used to be a kind of an in-house project where the editors and a few others would get together, and we would, just kind of brainstorm and try to come up with the person that we thought had the most impact in the community over the preceding year. And a couple of years ago, we changed that to be more of a community event where people would nominate. I think we do 20 nominees for Citizen of the Year, and then we have a panel that assesses the nominations, and we try to pick the one out of the 20.
This year was hard.
Yeah, well, every year we get, and that's one of the amazing things about it, and also along with the Citizen of the Year in the past, and we're going to, in COVID, kind of knock that off in 2020, but we're going to get this back underway. We also did what we called unsung heroes or everyday heroes, people that their good works didn't maybe have the kind of impact or scope that the Citizen of the Year had, but in their own little way, in their own little sphere of influence, they were just quietly going about doing good things. And we always did 12 or so of those folks in a little feature. Anyway, my point was, it's always amazing how many people there are out there that are doing so many good things, selfless acts of all kinds, taking care of their neighbors, and that's always been one of the best things we've done. And the Citizen of the Year is kind of a window into that at a little bigger level where people are having really major impact on their community. Anyway, this year I thought that the only choice was Dr. Philip Kaiser, who's the title is kind of odd. He's the Galveston County Local Health Authority, which means he's the top public health official in the county, and he kind of is the head of the health district. And anyway, he was minding his own business about this time last year, a little earlier in the year, doing this job, which is an important and interesting job all the time. They do things like track tuberculosis cases and all kinds of communicable diseases and try to stay on top of that and direct the clinics. And then, it's supposed to be kind of a important part-time job that he does while he's also doing his real job as a professor and a doctor at UTMB. And then COVID came, and he's the guy in the hot seat that,
The expert. Yeah, he's the expert.
And, he just inherited this huge, his part of this global pandemic. And anyway, the judges, the panelists who judged the nominations decided, that he was kind of the person who had the most public impact over the course of the year. And then we were very proud to honor him with Citizen of the Year. I think he really deserved it.
Yeah, if you think about if you went to one of the hubs to get a vaccine and watch that, and I also wished we could have give a Citizen of the Year to the thousands or thousands of people who volunteered at those hubs. But those hubs were amazing, and I don't think people outside Galveston County realized what a well-run machine those were. And in other places, they were still, I know in Austin, people were like, I need to come down to Galveston County, because it was so well done. But he had a hand in that and helping to organize those vaccinations, which was probably one of the most monumental things somebody could have done last year.
Yeah, and Laura, conversely, I'm not sure everyone in Galveston County understands what a phenomenal job we did here locally. We were at the top of the state in vaccination percentages. Walter Hill Park, we were running 2,000-3,000 people a day through that place. It was just, this was one of Galveston County's finest days if you consider how we responded to this.
It was amazing, and so it was hard to, just the organization that took. And I know it had glitches, but I mean, if you just look back at it and what they accomplished, it was I think he deserved it. There were a lot of other people who did too, but he was the face of that. He was our Fauci. I don't know if you'd want to hear that,
Right. But he was. I had the opportunity to interview Dr. Kaiser multiple times last year, and he was always very willing and anything I can do to get the information out and just available, not afraid to answer questions.
Right.
It's like, I'm going to stump him with this one. Not really, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he wasn't. He would just dive into it and give his best to his understanding and what the standard was and everything. It was awesome.
He was very measured, even-handed, didn't try to cause panic.
Yeah.
I like that about him. He was just, and like you said, accessible. That was one of the most important things. He was always accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, and he was being queried by, the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal and all the big newspapers. But every time we called him from the local newspaper, he answered the phone.
Yeah.
And he probably didn't need to talk to one more reporter that day, but he always talked to the local press, which we appreciate, and was always frank and honest, and he didn't try to sugarcoat anything. He wasn't hyping anything. He just gave it straight, and that was worth an honor right there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Gardy, can I bring up a subject and talk about it?
Of course.
I want to talk about the daily news and kind of the elephant in the room that some people have about newspapers and their future. And I think that it's important that people understand that the daily news is not a public utility. It's not this behemoth. We're not part of some large corporation or down in New York City or anything. We're a small business. I mean, we're less than 70 employees that live here in this county and do this job for this community. We're owned by an individual, Alyssa Walls, whose family has been involved in newspaper publishing throughout the South. Her father started this large helped other people start their newspapers, and so we're basically a family-owned business with 70 employees here in this area. And when people subscribe to us, they're buying a part of the daily news. It's part of their world, and they're supporting us. When advertisers make a choice to help us reach an audience of these folks that just, I'll tell you what, if their paper's 10 minutes late, they're calling us. I mean, how many people get that kind of,
Right.
That's their personal paper. And so folks that are supporting the daily news in that way are critical to us. And our business model has changed over the last couple of years. And when we went into COVID, we were just like any other business. The revenues, when everything froze up, we're based on local businesses and local revenues. And that's what supports our end subscriber revenue. And that's what supports us. And so, we went into the tunnel like every other business a year ago, everybody just saying, let's figure out a way to get to the other side. And, we might be at the other side right now in this whole journey with COVID, but the daily news managed its way through that. And yes, we had to make some changes on our print cycle, but part of that was also speeding up evolution where we know that our audience versus 10 years ago is much larger, but it's different. 10 years ago we may have just only counted our print subscribers, and now we have this website that does millions of page views a month, and it's a different audience than the one that reads the paper. There's a little overlap, but there's not. And our job is to figure out where the businesses that are in our community that we can help reach an audience, from A to B, connect these things. It's our job to figure out how to provide a service for them. Our newspaper is healthy. Now, are we, wonderful all parades and ice cream every day? No.
But maybe today ice cream.
Well, yeah, actually, Laura's right. Actually, I hired an ice cream truck to show up at 11:30 for all the
so
employees and their family. So anyway,
I'll be there.
You'll be there.
Please.
And get a chocolate taco. And get a chocolate taco.
That'll count for my taco for today.
The taco day. But the truth is, we're a small business, just like, we have less employees than a local grocery store will. Yeah. And we do all this work for our community, and we're proud to do it. But I want people to realize, we're not some big corporation and some evil giant out there. We're a family-owned business, just like most businesses are in this community. And we are healthy, healthy enough to do the job as we feel best. And some of the decisions we made last year, which would have been to retain journalists and employees versus have a couple of print days that were somewhat marginal, led to what Michael was able to earn last year on these awards. So, we're in it for what we think is the right balance for our community, and we want to be here. And again, Michael, Lauren, myself, we all want to make sure we hand this baton off for the people for the next 180.
Being a business like that where there's 70 employees, it's easier to make a shift as opposed if you were that monster-owned company by this. And I was sharing before we went on air about these other radio stations. Why are you doing that way? It's because they left me in charge somehow. Like, I don't know how I'm in charge, so I can kind of do whatever I want. That's why we're doing this way, because I don't know any better. But it's easier to make a shift because that's what it is. So whenever you have that, hey, we need to shift so we can keep our employees and do this other things, it just makes it easier to provide that content for the people.
You're absolutely right. That's a great observation, Gardy. Excellent.
Awesome. Is there anything else y'all would like to share?
I would just like to say, you hear a lot of stuff about people always lumping everyone in the media, but if you haven't read the Galveston County Daily News in a while, give it a chance. I think that people would be pleasantly surprised. It is all about this community, and our readers do shape what we write about and what we report, and I think that they should give it a chance. I think it's a scrappy Texas newspaper, and I think that they would be very proud of it.
And also, I guess the other thing, like if you have a response, there's like the letters to the editor.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And y'all do that, and y'all will share those out if someone has a voice and they have something that they want to say.
Michael, what is it you refer to the letters to the editor as a free-flow exchange of ideas and opinions regardless of your point of view? And that should be that.
It's just kind of there are some boundaries, but not many. There are a lot of ways you can run an editorial page. You can be really strict about who you let on the pages, and you can be a lot less strict. And the Daily News's bias in that has always been to let people speak, whether we agree with them or whether what they have to say makes much sense even sometimes. They're part of the community, and they have something they want to say, and they took the time to write it down. And so we're going to be very, very reluctant not to run a letter to the editor.
I love our letters to the editor. I'm just going to say that. Even before I ever worked here years ago, everyone read the Daily News' opinion page. We have a really unusual, it's just a great active opinion page. And also, just to brag on Michael, he won Opinion Writer of the Year, and I think he contributes greatly to the opinion.
Yeah, and contrary to belief, we really don't have a political affinity, okay? I mean, we all sit around and discuss things, and sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't disagree, but that's because we're all individuals. And, we don't, people would like to think we have a predisposition, but we really don't, okay? We're individuals with opinions and ideas. And I like what Michael said to me one time. He says, the idea of putting all these ideas out into the public for discussion is to put them under the light of day and let other people make their judgments about whether those hold water or not. And and I think that is how both a newspaper and how editorial and opinion pages should be. We should be able to respectfully share each other's opinions and respectfully disagree rather than just go top shelf and personally attack people.
I agree.
Yeah, and you'll see like one letter to the editor and it's one point of view and then the other point of view. also the other thing on social media, sometimes whenever they're shared, I think people don't realize that they are a letter to the editor.
We've
that's our own.
changed that.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
I have, yeah.
Because that was confusing to
Yeah,
some.
you're right.
But I think the changes we made a difference. But I
Yeah,
mean,
the
I don't
picture
think we
right
can
there
get
with the
any
type.
bigger than
Yeah,
letter
you
to
can't.
the editor.
But you'd be surprised because people don't read. They just like read what they want to read and see, and they're like, the Daily News did this or this publication did that. It's like it's literally just take 2 more seconds
Yes.
and read look at the giant picture. It's a typewriter.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it's my typewriter. I
It
took a
is?
picture of my
Yes.
typewriter.
That's cool. Okay, that's cool.
Yes, we're a small company. Like you say, we can turn on a dime. And we needed a picture of a typewriter. I had one in the back room and took a picture of it.
That's awesome. Hey, I appreciate you guys coming in. Congratulations on the awards and everything else, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for our area and the Daily News and everybody as we move forward.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
Enjoyed
thank you.
it.
It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you, and thank you for all you do in this community. You guys are a really positive
Yes.
force in this community, and
you.
we're glad to have you here. And we hope that together we can continue to contribute to Galveston County evolving and become a better place to live, do business, and work.
Awesome. Thank you guys. It's KHEA
you.
Radio 99.5.